So based on that information, I got my digital caliper. I set it at 20 millimeters and locked it down, and we'll be using this side of the caliper to do the float adjustment. So I'm gonna just preset this before my battery turns off. That way I know I got mine locked down and in the right setting for 20 millimeters. So as stated on Feature Cycle Dr. ATV, this is a very nice encompassing kit. So just go ahead and check inventory here, what I need. I'm going to work on putting the needle and seat in, put the float on. I'll put my main in, my pilot jet, and get the float set, put my gasket in there, and then close off my bowl, and then I'll consider that done for the internals, and then we can work on the outside of the carb body and get everything assembled that way. Actually, you know what, before I close it off, we'll do the seat and needle fuel check to make sure it doesn't leak. I'll show you how to do that. So let's put our seat in. I'm going to put this shim in, or washer. That goes down first. And put our seat in. $8mm socket, just hand tighten it for now. Let's get it seated properly. Don't want to cross thread anything on these. And I would just give it just a gentle torque. Not much needed. There you go. Alright, and then you have your needle, and this is on the new one you won't have any problems, but you know when you're looking at your needle, if you're choosing to reuse it, just make sure that this plunger still actuates. Okay. Alright, so the next step is to get the float on, and then we'll set the float height. Alright, so gather your retaining pin for a float. This one passed the test. It float, you know, when I had it in ultrasonic cleaner, it was on top of the water floating, didn't sink. I shook it when I took it out, no indication of any water or any air holes. I pushed it down below the water to see if any bubbles came out, so everything checked out okay. The other one, not so great. Remember I was doing 2 carbs, so the other one's gonna have to be replaced. But this one is good to go, so we'll go ahead and get this pen pushed in. Come from the other side. So you got another float setting tool here. It's more conventional, I guess you would say, for carb setting, but when you take a reading, you're setting it on the gasket mating surface, and these carbs have a lip on them. As you can see, they have a lip, so the surface that you want to measure from is recessed, and as you can see by the design of this, I don't know if I showed you that, it's recessed, it's got a lip, you can see how the surface is recessed down in there, and by the design of these tools, this is just too thick to fit down. It's going to hit the lip before it can get on the mating surface. So I'm going to notch this out. I'll make this tool work because most of these carbs I'm working on actually have this recessed surface. So I'm going to notch this part here so that this tool can lay down into the gasket seating area and not hit the ridges on the outer sides of these bodies. But for now, I'm going to use my caliper, and then we'll make the adjustment to the float. All right, so we're gonna want to put our carb in this position. Okay, I'm just using a little clamp, or get yourself a helper, have them hold it at an angle so that the hinge of the float is up on the top of the carb body, and that it hinges and sets on that needle plunger, as you can see right there. Okay, so that's the appropriate position to set your float height. So we'll get at the float height adjustment. So we'll take our caliper that we have preset at 20, and we're gonna go ahead and set it in the gasket surface. As you can see, this float had been in this carb originally, where someone had messed with it, and it's way off correct setting. So I'm gonna end up bringing this tab. We're gonna bend this tab back, but I would say to do it properly without tweaking all, you got your double bowl here, your double balances here. I'm gonna pull this pin and then come in with a flathead and push it. I really don't want to tweak it from this angle, because I might alter the two arms and stuff. So it's best just to make sure that your float is balanced, where they're level on the arms from the center connector pivot point, and make your adjustments by pulling your float off, I would say, so that you're not tweaking these at different levels, just because it can create a headache if you're not careful. So I'm going to go ahead and make a little adjustment. What I'm going to do, since it's hot, since it's above my float level, I'm going to pull that tab and push it outward so that it's able to compress further. And like I said, I'm going to take the extra second or two to pull that pin. Let me grab my pliers. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the pin and make my little adjustment, like I said. And just go ahead and push this tab upward. Maybe I can just do it with my finger here. It's better to do it with my finger. Let's get that. Check our adjustment again. Let's tilt this back just a little bit more for my liking. So maybe like a millimeter, 2 millimeters shy of where I want to get. So I'm going to bend that tab up a little more in the same direction. And I think we'll be good. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to make some adjustments so you don't have to watch me. You get the concept, and then we'll move on. So one more thing to note about this float itself, the OEM float. This is an OEM float. It has this stop tab on it. I have the other one that is going to get tossed, does not have it, but that's going to prevent this from falling in the bowl and releasing your needle jet. So make sure you just buy the OEM, spend the extra $10 or whatever, and get that one that has this built-in stop on it. Alright, so I think I got my adjustment right. So I'm just touching both sides of the bowl. That's why you want to take measurements from both sides of from the float, so you know that your float isn't tweaked and out of shape. So we're good. Alright, so next step, let's do the float and the needle and seat leak test. Alright, so when it comes to doing the seat and needle test, this is a unique setup for this carb as opposed to maybe a Z50 carb, because this one has the built-in petcock on the lower part of the bowl, and that's where the fuel comes in, and then it's fed through this orifice up into the upper part of the carb body. So we won't be able to use this because I want to see if we're leaking. I'm not covering it up. So what I did is I use, this is a little red straw from like a WD-40 can, or I pulled this from my brake cleaner can, I wrapped it with some painter's tape and it fits right down into the orifice. And then I just have some extra, like a drain line that I did another layer of tape, and then this is going to feed into my auxiliary gas tank. So that way I'll be able to pressure feed the fuel and have it go through the circuit and then test for leaks at the seat. So you'll have to figure out some sort of mechanism to get that gas into that hole effectively on your own. So we'll just have it hang in relative to kind of the height of the tank versus the carb. So we're running into the little receptacle I made, and then we're going to turn the fuel on and let it run while it's in this position with the carb upside down, and then take a look to see if there's any fuel coming out from the needle seat area past the aluminum washer or past the needle. So just keep an eye on the seat area, just make sure you're not getting any leaking.